All right, welcome, folks. Mil-Spec Ops Monkey. This is going to be your Monkey Minute for this week relative to biblical news, and that's going to be for October 7th, 2021. And without further ado, let's get over to the board and take a look at what's going on in the world. Now, very interesting. We're going to start out in natural disasters. This is actually a flash flood that hit Marseille, and it says that they got 2 months worth of rain overnight, and that was over the weekend. They said it basically 6.8 inches in the space of about 2 hours. But to be outdone by Italy, check this one out. It gets worse. Italy breaks a national 6-hour rainfall record, 19.5 inches. And that was actually from the same storm system that rolled through and set records in Italy and in France. So, all right. Now, let's get over to wars and rumors of wars, where the IDF chief of Israel will pursue operations against Iran on all fronts. Now, we've been following in recent weeks all of the peace talks going on and all of the other things that have to do with Iran and sanctions and things that basically Trump put in play to help slow down their development of a nuclear weapon. Of course, the previous administration gave them up to millions, hundreds of millions of dollars to build that program. But Israel is now saying, hey, time is up. We got to start making moves because you remember Israel said 10 weeks ago that Iran was about 10 weeks out from actually having a nuclear weapon capability. And so I think the time is now. And so it's going to be really interesting to see whether or not this is part of, the Gog-Magog war coming up, Ezekiel 38, or if this is a precursor to it. So keep your eyes on that area. Then also on the same note, Gantz is actually talks Iran and the Abraham Accord with U.S. or ex-U.S. defense officials. Now, the interesting thing about this, if you guys remember, is Trump stood up this Abraham Accord as part of the peace deal. It has not been put in play in terms of a 7-year covenant by any means. It was just a peace accord, an Abraham Accord that was put together where a multitude of nations actually came together and agreed upon it. Stood it up in the UAE. And so in recent weeks, we've actually seen where they're standing up a temple there that will have all three religions in there. So we have one world religion under the same roof, which is pushing you straight into the book of Revelation because we know that is coming and that is going to be a part of it. And so I do find it interesting that one world religion is not being pushed yet in Israel. That it is over in this other section where they're doing the Abraham Accord, pulled together. And so anyway, keep your eyes on that one because I think this is definitely a precursor to the Third World Temple stuff coming up because you got to have peace in the region. That's straight out of Daniel 9:25-27, and then Revelation 11, which is the two witnesses in the courtyard, etc. So pay attention because we're getting so close, folks. This is crazy. All right. Now, speaking of crazy, they had researchers found over the weekend that Mount Sinai, they believe they found that specific location where Moses actually received the 10 Commandments from God himself. So this is in Saudi Arabia, and they have the peak, and they're fairly confident this is exactly the spot and location, which is considered very holy. And man, that's pretty crazy when you think about he was sitting right there with God handing him the laws for man. It's a pretty amazing just to be able to find that and be able to sit in that spot. That'd be pretty awesome. So, all right. Well, it doesn't stop there. So check this out. Now, archaeologists in Israel believe that they have found the Second Temple period quarry. And that's where they made all the stones and everything they needed to build the Second Temple back when it was, if you remember, that was destroyed in 70 AD, but that quarry is 2,000 years old. And so I find it interesting that they just happen to stumble upon that when they're in talks of building the third temple. So interesting times, and things are just flying ahead at a breakneck pace. So on that same note, Noah's Ark hunters claim they found the shape-matching biblical description through the use of some 3D scans. Now, there has been talk for a long time that Noah's Ark was actually up in the mountains of Turkey, and this is the same location. They went back, but they now have some technology that allows them to actually, dig in more scientifically along the research to confirm their findings. And so, as you can see, this is a 3D image of the hull that was actually scanned. And then it goes into further detail. Now, this is a picture, artist rendition of the boat itself. But if you remember, according to Genesis in the Bible, when the flood took place, Noah actually, and Noah's Ark actually rested on the top of a mountain as the waters receded, and that's where Noah's Ark actually remained, and Noah got out of the boat. And so, but this is actually it. You can see they've got measurements actually, and say that those measurements actually align with biblical and with Scripture. So, very, very cool. All right. Now, we were talking wars and rumors of wars, but I held this over to the Turkey side of the house because this is where this is taking place. But it looks like Turkey is about to hold some military exercises right near the border of Iran, which they're saying is amid heightening tensions between the countries that they're partnering with on this one. And Iran is not happy about it. And so, but this exercise is going to be titled Unshakable Brotherhood. And it's basically being conducted to develop friendship, cooperation, and coordination between the countries. But anyway, anytime you've got things going on somebody's border, they're always paying close attention. So, all right. Now let's bump over here. We've been talking a lot about the economy. We're talking about supply chain. We're talking about how things are starting to slow. And there's a lot of indications that we have a collapse in the not too far off future. And so, that said, we are coming up on a Shemitah year, which those not familiar with that, there's basically has to do with the financial every sabbatical year, which is every 7 years. And so this year is primed to be the mother of them all, according to an Israeli economist. Now, I will tell you, he's probably right, just given what we know, what we're watching around the world. But every 7 years that repeats that cycle, and they say that things kind of get a little bumpy in what they call the Shemitah year. And so this is going to be a Shemitah year. So hang on to your britches. It's getting ready to get crazy. And so we've been talking about the economy, continuing on with supply, and they're now saying that China to U.S. freight costs have soared tenfold due to a container shortage. Now, we already know that things were already going up in cost, but when you start putting a squeeze on, the flow of goods, that's when you start to see inflation go. And I think we're on the brink of some hyperinflation and a lot of supply shortages. So if you're not prepping, you need to start, because this is going to get serious pretty quickly. China's also reported, if you watch my last Monkey Minute, a 40% reduction in production because of blackouts. They have a coal shortage over there, and they're saying they are not going to be able to produce the quantities they used to be able to produce. So everything seems to be coming to a screeching halt. And just pay close attention to this, because this is going to impact us big time, okay? Actually, it's going to impact the world. All right. So, hey, listen, same note, I just want to remind you that God didn't bring us this far to abandon you, okay? So keep the faith. This is a great time to continue to pray, continue to get into the Word, and continue to strengthen your position relative to that Word, right? We could all certainly spend more time in our Bibles. And so, but that's going to be it. Listen, for our Monkey Minute this week, you guys be safe out there. Stay frosty. God bless. Monkey out. Check out the latest gear and products at monkeywerxus.com.